Hollywood has a long history of chewing up the most vulnerable people who walk through its doors. Big names, powerful names have spent years taking advantage of men, women, and sometimes children who just wanted a shot at making it.
I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
Diddy, Epstein, Clive Davis, Ellen, these are just a handful of the names now heavily tied to what a lot of people are calling an epidemic of abuse inside the industry. But now Terrence Howard has stepped into the conversation and he's not tiptoeing around anything. I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You should have a greater desire than being a man. So what exactly has Terrence Howard said? And where does Ellen fit into all of this? That's exactly what we're getting into today. For years, people couldn't understand why so many celebrities went completely quiet whenever stories about Ellen DeGeneres started breaking. Terrence thinks he knows why, and it runs deeper than most people want to admit. He argued that people are shaped by the environments they're raised in, and that destructive behavior doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It gets passed down, generation to generation, like a cycle nobody wants to break. Because of that, he said he tries to extend some compassion rather than just pure anger toward the people involved.
Shining back is just another wave of the universe looking at it.
Come on, Diddy.
Diddy, even Epstein, all of them. What one human being does, all human beings are doing. Because we're just really, what happens in the sea over here, we don't say this wave just crashed.
Interesting thing to say.
Howard went further and grouped together figures like Ellen, Diddy, and Jeffrey Epstein to make a larger point about learned behavior. He wasn't excusing anyone. He was saying somebody taught them. Shining back is just another wave of the universe. Looking at Diddy, even Epstein, all of them. What one human being does, all human beings are doing because we're just really what happens in the sea. We don't say this wave is just an interesting thing, so meaning someone taught Epstein, someone taught Diddy. When I had Suge Knight on, Suge Knight said, who did he say? Clive Davis. Yeah, he said Clive Davis. He talked about what Clive did early on. And according to Howard, the same logic applies directly to Ellen. She didn't develop into who she became inside a bubble. Nobody does. Here's the thing that's easy to forget now. For a very long time, almost nobody in Hollywood spoke out about Ellen DeGeneres. And it wasn't because people weren't paying attention. It's because Ellen had spent years constructing one of the most bulletproof public images in the entire entertainment business. She wasn't just a talk show host. She was supposed to be America's nicest person. She gave away cars. She showed up for families on their worst days and turned things around. She donated to charities, danced with crowds every single afternoon, and eventually earned the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
What if one human being does so, meaning someone taught Epstein, someone taught Diddy. When I had Suge Knight on, Suge Knight said, who did he say, Rob, that taught Diddy? He gave a name. Quincy? No, was it Quincy? Clive Davis. Yeah, he said Clive Davis.
Clive Davis.
Yeah, he talked about that, what Clive did early on.
3 decades in entertainment, and Ellen DeGeneres built something most people in Hollywood never even get close to, a reputation as the kindest person on television. As a stand-up comic, actor, and TV host, she kept delivering the same message. Be kind. Treat people the way you want to be treated. At one of the most charged moments in modern American history, her honesty and her courage helped shift how millions of people thought about acceptance and equality. She became the kind of figure that felt untouchable, genuinely beloved. But that image didn't last. Former employees started talking, and what they described had nothing to do with the show people watched every afternoon. Stories about bullying, intimidation, and a toxic work culture started circulating online. Fast. The woman whose entire brand was built around kindness was suddenly being painted as something completely different. One former writer broke it down plainly. If you didn't pitch in her wheelhouse, she looked at you like you had just stabbed her puppy. Then came what she called the process of pushing people out of the circle. And people wanted to stay in that circle because the fear of being out of it was real. That same writer admitted it didn't shake her personally. She'd worked for tough bosses before, including Bill Maher, so she could handle it. But the first-time writers, that was a different story.
How was she mean to you? Like, give an example of like a day. Like, was it an energy thing? Was she just short with you? I mean, what was exactly?
It was like
happening?
if you didn't pitch in her wheelhouse, then she looked at you like you had just fucking stabbed her puppy. And then there was this process of pushing people out of the circle. And you want to be in the circle because there's a lot of fear going on.
Yeah.
And you're in or out.
They used to cry, she said. There was a lot of crying in the hallways. Think about what that means. People starting their careers, finally landing a job on one of the biggest daytime shows in the country, and they're breaking down in the hallway. That's not a tough boss. That's something else entirely. And the long-term damage was real. She put it simply, in the short run, fear might squeeze more out of people, but over time, you break them. They hit walls. They've got nothing left to give, and then sweeps weak hits, 12-hour days, ratings on the line, and nobody can deliver because they're already running on empty. That's when the real question started circulating everywhere. How does someone spend 30 years carefully building the image of the nicest person on television only to watch the whole thing come apart almost overnight? How does that happen? And more importantly, did anyone inside that building ever try to stop it? To really understand what happened, you have to go back to the very start. Ellen's fall from TV royalty had been brutal and fast. By 2002, she was struggling to get hired anywhere, and her career looked like it was over. Then Pixar came calling, and she was cast as Dory in Finding Nemo, a role that wasn't even written for a woman originally. Writer Andrew Stanton reportedly saw something in Ellen's naturally quick, playful, stream-of-consciousness way of talking that fit the forgetful Blue Tang perfectly. It turned out to be one of the best casting decisions in animation history. Finding Nemo earned nearly $1 billion worldwide and handed Ellen something she desperately needed, a whole new audience. The family-friendly image was back, and she ran with it. A successful HBO comedy special followed.
So there's a lot of it didn't really bother me that much because I'd written on a lot of shows before and I kind of knew what it was like to have tough bosses.
Yeah.
I wrote for Bill Maher.
Sure.
And so I was just tough enough, but then there was these first-time writers they used to cry. There was a lot of crying in the hallways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just feels like it's not a good energy for a workplace or a show.
Then in 2003, she launched the Ellen DeGeneres show with Jennifer Aniston as her first guest, fresh off the end of Friends. Audiences locked in immediately. The show was built around games, dancing, surprise giveaways, and feel-good moments, the kind of thing people put on when they needed a break from the noise of everyday life. It worked beyond anything anyone expected. The show pulled in millions of viewers daily, collected dozens of Emmy Awards in its first few seasons alone, and turned Ellen into one of the most powerful personalities on television. By the mid-2000s, she wasn't just competing in the ratings, she owned them. But something was already off beneath the surface. Writers who had worked on her original sitcom started talking, and what they described didn't match the warm image on screen. According to their accounts, when Ellen didn't like a joke, she'd fix her eyes on the writers and ask them why they kept writing such terrible material. The stories didn't blow up at the time. Most people never heard them. And then there was Grayson Chance, a moment almost nobody remembers. Ellen was so moved by a young Grayson Chance's talent that she launched a record label, named it 1111, and signed him as her very first artist. From the outside, it looked like a dream come true. A kid gets discovered on YouTube, catches Ellen's attention, and she builds an entire label around his career. That's a fairy tale, except it wasn't.
I feel like you're getting less out of people by treating them like that.
I
what do you think?
think so. Yeah, for sure. I think in the long run. I think in the short run you might get more, but in the long run people
break
get
them.
exhausted. You
Yeah.
break them. They can't. And then you hit sweeps, which is you're working 12, 14-hour days because it's the ratings months, and then nobody can give anything, and
Yeah.
you just hit wall.
Years later, Grayson came forward and described his time working with Ellen as nothing short of traumatic. He called her manipulative and opportunistic. He also said he believed Ellen saw him as her version of Justin Bieber, and the comparisons weren't random. Both were young male vocalists discovered at a young age. Both had that same floppy-haired teen heartthrob look, and both had been found online before the industry knew they existed. Ellen thought she'd found her cash cow. Grayson Chance thought he'd found his big break. They were both wrong about each other. She believed she was going to be the one who discovered and launched the next Justin Bieber. Instead, Grayson has since said that Ellen was controlling over every single aspect of his career, and that she simply didn't have the experience, the knowledge, or the real-world understanding of how to develop a child artist at that level. When Grayson's second album dropped and underperformed, he says Ellen completely vanished. No phone calls, no texts, no communication at all. She just disappeared like he never existed. He would eventually return to The Ellen Show in 2019, and he describes that appearance as awkward and staged. Around the same period, other people started coming forward too.
In a career spanning 3 decades, Ellen DeGeneres has lifted our spirits and brought joy to our lives as a stand-up comic, actor, and television star. In every role, she reminds us to be kind to one another and to treat people as each of us wants to be treated. At a pivotal moment, her courage and candor.
The floodgates were beginning to crack. Comedian Hassan Minhaj politely corrected Ellen on the pronunciation of his last name during an appearance on her show. She kept insisting her version was right. The exchange went viral, and people weren't laughing with Ellen on that one. Then there was Taylor Swift. Ellen was playing a game where Taylor had to identify every man she had dated or had a romantic history with. On camera, in front of millions of people, Taylor Swift looked like she wanted to disappear. She was visibly uncomfortable, nearly in tears, asking Ellen to stop. And Ellen kept going. Look, I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan, but basic human decency doesn't require a fan card. Ellen had the power to stop that moment and chose not to. That says something. And Taylor wasn't the only one. This was Ellen's pattern. Make the guest squirm. Create that uncomfortable energy where someone feels cornered and exposed. Celebrity, media trained. None of that fully prepares you for being put in a position like that on national television. Years later, Taylor admitted those interviews regularly left her feeling anxious. Then 2020 arrived and everything changed in a single tweet. Comedian Kevin T. Porter posted something that, on the surface, looked simple. He wrote, "Right now, we all need a little kindness. You know, like Ellen always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Reply with the craziest story you've heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll donate money to the LA Food Bank." Within hours, thousands of responses came pouring in. Some stories sounded almost too wild to believe. Others came from people who claimed they had worked with Ellen directly or crossed paths with her over the years. Some stories sounded unbelievable. Others felt uncomfortably familiar. That one tweet didn't just go viral, it shifted the entire conversation around who Ellen DeGeneres actually was behind the smile. Hundreds of people were coming forward with the exact same story at the exact same time. Then former employees started going on record, and the word they kept using wasn't frustration or disappointment. It was fear. That single word showed up again and again from person after person, and it landed hard. That wave of stories became the first real crack in Ellen's public image. Her show eventually got canceled. Her audience drifted away, and for a while it seemed like the world had simply moved on. Then September 2024 happened, and one arrest dragged her name straight back into the conversation. When Sean Diddy Combs was taken into custody on charges that genuinely shocked people, the internet did what it always does. Old photos resurfaced. Old posts got screenshotted and shared. One of those posts was a birthday message Ellen had written years earlier, calling Diddy by a warm, playful nickname like they'd been close for years, because they had been. Ellen had interviewed him multiple times on her show. She'd attended his famous white parties. So when that birthday post started circulating, the speculation hit fast and it hit wide. People weren't just talking about the post itself, they were asking what the friendship actually meant.
Helped change the hearts and minds of millions of Americans, accelerating our nation's constant drive toward equality and acceptance for all. Again and again, Ellen DeGeneres has shown us that a single individual can make the world a more fun, more open, more loving place, so long as we just keep swimming.
One clip that kept getting passed around showed Diddy on Ellen's show, laughing and joking about staying out until the early hours of the morning. "It's in the vicinity of, the time you do bad things," he said, grinning. Ellen played along, leaning into the bit. "Your party starts at really? That early?" she asked. He explained how it would run until the morning, spill onto the top 2 floors of a hotel, carry on from there. The audience laughed. Ellen laughed. Watching it back now, knowing what we know, those clips feel completely different. Some people pointed out that Diddy had appeared on Ellen's show around children, and that alone opened up a conversation that nobody was comfortable having. Parents online were blunt about it. One comment that kept getting reposted put it plainly: "I don't even want my child in the same city as this man." What made everything worse was what Ellen didn't do. After the allegations against Diddy became public, after the video footage emerged that left most people speechless, Ellen said absolutely nothing. No statement, no post, nothing. For someone who had built an entire brand around warmth and speaking up, the silence was deafening. People noticed. They asked directly, on camera, in videos that spread fast. "Were you surprised by what came out about Diddy? He's been on your show multiple times. You've called him a close friend. And now, after everything that's come out, you have nothing to say?" That silence became its own kind of answer. Ellen was so close to Diddy that she went on national television and admitted she knew exactly how wild his parties were and that she'd personally been invited to them. That's not a rumor. That's her own words, on camera, in front of the whole country. And if you need a reminder of what those parties actually looked like, Diddy's former bodyguard broke it all down. He described how Diddy rented out a mansion for Meek Mill's birthday, paying around $25,000 for the place. The crew that was there that night was a small group, just him, Wolf, Mace, and Puff, plus one other person inside the mansion. What made it a story wasn't the party itself, it was what the property owner found afterward. Used condoms, razor blades, bloody sheets, loads of cocaine left behind like nobody even tried to clean up. The bodyguard said it straight. They said it was disgusting the way that they left the place. The owner never turned the cocaine over to police, which raised its own set of questions. And on top of the $25,000 rental fee, Diddy's crew got hit with extra charges for the cleanup. The bodyguard's reaction? Yo, wow! Now here's where it gets darker. Diddy has a long history of silencing the people closest to him, and the case of Kim Porter is one of the most talked about examples. At the time of her death, she was reportedly writing a book, one that was said to expose the abuse she suffered and the crimes she witnessed up close. That book never came out. Kim passed away under circumstances that many people around Diddy found deeply suspicious. Most of them stayed quiet, too afraid to say a word publicly, but not John Deal. He went on record and said what others wouldn't. I believe that Al knows that Puff has some powerful people around him and some people doing some things for him that could danger his life. That's not vague. That's someone telling you they know the risks and they're still talking anyway. His life could be in danger. That's what people close to Al are saying, and honestly, it tracks. Nobody's spending serious money on security unless they genuinely believe they're a target. You understand why he's making those moves, and you just hope it works out for him. But here's where things get really uncomfortable. Kim's death was never properly investigated, not the way it should have been. Her family deserved a full, thorough process so they could walk away knowing there was no foul play involved, and they never got that. Think about this for a second. How many people do you know sleep with their phone within arm's reach? Probably almost everyone, right? So why was Kim Bear's entire digital life just gone? Her laptop, her cell phone, every single device she'd used to reach her daughters, her friends, her family, all of it missing. And it gets worse. According to what's been reported, the detectives never even viewed her body in the bed where she died. The coroner had already removed her, pronounced her dead, and told detectives there was no foul play before they even looked. If that's accurate, that case needs to be reopened, plain and simple. Now shout out to the guy who dug through the paperwork, because what he found is wild. The documentation shows Kim received a full hour-long massage, and this is while she supposedly had full-blown pneumonia. Who gets a massage in that condition? And there's another layer to it. Did she use baby oil during that massage? Because Gene would later reveal that Diddy's baby oil was typically laced with drugs, which makes the whole massage detail a lot harder to ignore. But this isn't just about Diddy's rumors. It's about the pattern. It's about the method. Kim Porter's death set a precedent, and if what people are saying holds up, that same playbook may have been used again, this time connected to Ellen DeGeneres, and allegedly targeting two people who were about to expose her. Those two people are DJ Twitch and Anne Heche, Ellen's ex-girlfriend. Twitch was the DJ who took over from DJ Tony on The Ellen Show, and he was also a So You Think You Can Dance alum. In December of 2022, he was found dead in a hotel room not far from his own home. Authorities ruled it a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. When Twitch's mother learned that her son was gone, she didn't accept it. She was immediately suspicious and believed someone had done something to him. His wife, his friends, his family, all of them said the same thing. They had no idea he was struggling. Nobody saw it coming. There were no money problems in the household. By all accounts, they were in a loving marriage. An autopsy and toxicology report confirmed there was nothing in his system, and investigators found zero evidence of foul play. The suspicious circumstances people pointed to just didn't hold up under scrutiny. Here's what I actually think. The theory connecting Ellen to his passing seems to stem from the toxic work environment she created. And there's a real argument that kind of pressure hits some people harder than others. A hostile environment will make anyone question their own value. But personally, I don't believe Ellen had anything to do with Twitch's death. My own theory points somewhere else entirely. Twitch and his wife had ties to a dance organization called 7M that many have described as a cult, and the emotional weight of that situation may have contributed to where his head was. That, though, is a whole separate conversation for another time. A few months after Twitch passed, another person connected to Ellen died. Her ex-girlfriend, Anne Hay, who she dated from 1997 to 2000, passed away under devastating circumstances. Their relationship, while it lasted, was described as toxic, and when it ended, Ann was so emotionally destroyed that she had to be hospitalized just to stabilize her mental health. On August 5th, 2022, Ann was driving her Mini Cooper through a Los Angeles neighborhood when she crashed into a home at high speed. The car caught fire almost instantly. Firefighters were on scene for a significant period of time before they could even reach her inside the vehicle because of the smoke and flames. The scene was horrifying. When they finally pulled Ann from that wreckage, she was still alive. A video that spread across the internet showed her actually sitting up from the stretcher as medics wheeled her toward the ambulance. The pain she must have been in at that moment is something I can't even wrap my head around. She was taken to the hospital, slipped into a coma, and on August 11, 2022, doctors confirmed there was no brain activity. So now you have Twitch, someone who worked directly inside Ellen's world, and Ann Hay, the woman Ellen once shared her life with. Both gone, both connected to her in deeply personal ways. That is exactly the thread Terrence Howard was pulling on when he made his accusations. The question isn't just what Ellen did. The question is why the people closest to her kept ending up in tragedy. And speaking out against Ellen in Hollywood isn't just career suicide, it's total erasure. That's why most people who've lived it said nothing for years, and some are still saying nothing right now. But Terrence broke that silence anyway. Does that take guts, or does that take desperation? Maybe both. Now, drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one. Subscribe for the stories behind hip-hop headlines. See you in the next one.